everyone, and welcome to the Comicasters, Issue 4. I'm your co-host, MC Brown.
I'm Colt Hudson.
And Derek Ross is on vacation this week, so it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
As always, we can be reached at Comicasters, Comicasters, on Twitter and Instagram. We could also be messaged on Facebook, facebook.com/Comicasters. And we are, as always, on thebeststation.net under the guise of our great producer, Craig Best, who also can be reached at facebook.com/thebeststation. And we want to personally thank Craig Best for the platform to give to all you great fans out there. And don't hesitate to drop Craig a line. Thank him as well. And we want to give a shout out to also our buddies in Comicast, the Fast Pitch. And we appreciate their plugs and stuff as well. So, Colt, just you and me this week. We got a great show lined up. We're going to be reviewing Magneto Testament.
Yep, we sure are.
And as always, before we get into that, we also got some other great special segments on our show. We always have our social media round at the start of the show, and we got a few good ones here, given back to fans that have left us feedback on the show. So we're going to jump right into it, Colt. That's okay with you, sir.
Fine by me.
All right, so wasting no time, Colt, we're going to get to first one from @CableForce90 messages us on Twitter. Why didn't you guys mention the outstanding news reveal in the credits of the Deadpool movie? Too big not to mention the possibility of a Cable and X-Force movie starring Deadpool.
That is a good question.
That's true. We did drop the ball a little bit on that one. I think we kind of saved it for you guys, since I think that would have kind of spoiled it for all you people that would have. But we were in the spoiler section, so we probably should have said it. I mean, that's maybe our fault there, but we'll address it right now.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we might not have addressed it then, but we'll address it now, certainly. I think that is big news.
Yes, for sure. And you want to reveal what the scene that Cable Force 90 is talking about?
Yeah, so after the credits, we're all sitting in the theater anticipating something great because it's a Marvel film, and like any Marvel film, we wait till after the credits. Deadpool comes out of the bathroom or shower, so it seems, and he lets us know, hey, there's probably going to be a sequel to this. We don't know what it's going to be, but Cable's going to be there, and no, we don't know who we've picked for the cast.
Just to mention, it's a kind of funny nod to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which a little spoof on that, starring Deadpool, who was in his robe with a mask, obviously still on. So
right,
it was a pretty funny scene. Yes, Cable definitely mentioned. So you can only imagine with the rumors that's swirling around that Deadpool will be in an X-Force movie. That Cable, obviously synonymous with the New Mutants when he debuted. All the way in, coincidentally, 1990, which Cable Force 90 is probably from.
Right.
And yes, certainly the possibility of Cable X-Force. We've heard Domino possibly being cast in this new Deadpool film. So will it be Deadpool 2? Will it be X-Force?
Yeah.
That might be remain to be seen, but definitely Cable, the future, possibly, I would say, alternate version of the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey, right?
That's right.
So, yes, we would have been remiss not to mention that. So, definitely thank you for bringing that up, Cable Force 90. It's important to let you all fans know that if you have not seen Deadpool, we probably spoiled that for you. And we apologize, but we're hoping, along with the millions of movies made, that most of our fan base has already seen that great film. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those who are not familiar with Cable, it might be good to go back and look at the 90s animated series of X-Men, because he does play a pretty large role in some of those episodes. So if you're not familiar with Cable, that would be a good way to go back and kind of familiarize yourself with the character.
A lot of time travelers in the X-Men universe. Bishop, another one, and you got a lot of future stories and alternate versions of characters to come in there. And I know X-Man was another one who crossed over from the Age of Apocalypse. There's another version of Cable, Nathan Summers. So look out for that, because Cable, obviously in the 90s, all through that era with extreme generation that was going on during the Marvel Universe and a lot of Image comics and everything. Cable is a pretty big star during those. And has a huge fan base, so this is going to be pretty huge for the Marvel Universe.
Absolutely.
To have Cable debut on the big screen.
Yeah, great question.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Cable Force. And we got another one that kind of looks like it ties into a theme that we had a question last week. It was really thought-provoking. This one's from message, I believe, through Facebook, to our Facebook page. She wants to use the alias Real Talk Girl for Life. She wants to be known as. She says, I really can't wait to see you guys tackle some female-related projects. Anything coming up? Funny you should say that.
Yeah.
We actually have our new segment. We kind of did a version of that last show, Colt. And we're going to debut this show, Comic Clash of the Week. And that's going to actually feature 2 female characters going at it.
It is, yeah. The Comic Clash. You will hear about that on this episode, in fact.
So it's a little tease for you, Real Talk Girl for Life. We also, next show, we'll let the cat out of the bag. We'll preview it at the end of the show. We may be reviewing an animated feature that will highly feature a female character. So
absolutely,
stay tuned for that, Real Talk Girl for Life, at the end of the show, and we'll reveal actually what that will be. So
yeah,
some big stuff coming up. And we got one final one, Colt.
Okay.
And this is from at the Big Valboski Cannabis Hannabis. Okay. I'm curious to know who your favorite writers, artists, or creative tandems are of all time. You want to tackle that first, Colt? Do you have any artists or writers that come to mind, or an actual creative team from anything that you've read in the past?
Wow, on top of my head, that's really putting me on the spot.
Yeah, good question.
Oh, man. Well, what comes to mind is, still to this day, one of my favorites is Jim Lee and his work of Hush.
Yes.
The work in there is absolutely phenomenal. So that's what comes to mind right now, I would say.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, and saying the Batman universe, that's huge. We also have, for the combination, I would say Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale, The Long Halloween. They also did Superman for All Seasons. Spider-Man Blue, I think. You put those two together, that's gold. I think they work really well together. My favorites personally is John Ostrander, Suicide Squad run. Him and Luke McDonnell. I think that first 2 years of Suicide Squad was predominantly just them two, along with I think that near the end of that 2 years was Kim Yale, the late wife of John Ostrander, came into the run, and that was just I think perfect for the Suicide Squad. Keith Giffen, J.M. DeMatteis wrote a funny version of the Justice League along with great facial expression artist Kevin Maguire. I think that creative team, they also went on to do a Defenders kind of funny thing for Marvel too, so that they actually work together in both. They've been known for some great comedic writing. Those would be those would be a handful of my favorites. I think Adam Hughes just comes to mind as one of my favorite artists, just by himself. So, that's just a handful for myself, just off the cuff. So, great question.
Good. Yeah.
Big Valboski, and just as a plug, there's a high possibility we could be on location. That's the plan as of right now, or if we are in the midst of Phoenix Comic-Con, which would be where our home base would be at this time, we hope to actually touch base with a lot of those great creators, maybe some young and rising upcoming artists or writers for sure at the con. So stay tuned for that, and we hope as a big plug. If there's anybody you want us to talk to, let us know at Comicasters, Twitter, Instagram. Send us a message, or drop it at Facebook /Comicasters, and just basically let us know who you'd like to talk. If you want us to talk to a certain creator, hey, see if such and such is at this Phoenix Con, let us know, and we'll try to do our best to ask them a few questions if they can give us a little bit of their time. So
absolutely,
we look forward to touching base with them, and we look forward to more great questions for all of you fans out there. So I think without further ado, we're going to jump into this basically review of the week, and this was a pretty powerful trade we're about to review, Magneto Testament.
Yeah,
and a big plug. This can be found from definitely we're going to be reviewing this. This was coming off Comixology, I should say. This was collected in trade in June of 2009, but it was also from 2008. And basically, this is named Best Miniseries of 2008, right, Colt?
That's right.
By IGN. X-Men Magneto Testament follows Max Eisenhardt, who we all know as basically the real name of Eric Lenschner, who is Magneto himself, from 1935 to 1945 as he fights to protect his family and a Romani girl named Magda, who has ties to a couple other Marvel characters, from the indignities of Nuremberg. So this is a pretty powerful story, I'd say, Colt, and today the world knows him as Magneto, but this is goes back in time. He's the most radical champion of mutant rights that mankind has ever seen, but in 1935 he was just another schoolboy who happened to be Jewish in Nazi Germany, and it's not going to bode well for him, unfortunately, due to just the historical accuracy of the story. the excuse me, the definitive origin story of one of Marvel's greatest icons begins with a silver chain and a crush on a girl, and quickly turns into a harrowing struggle for survival against the inexorable machinery of Hitler's final solution.
Yeah.
And this is from X-Men Phoenix and songwriter Greg Pak and award-winning artist Carmine Di Giudimencio, and it collects X-Men Magneto Testament 1 through 5. So, pretty powerful stuff, and if you want to delve into it a little, Colt, and just give us some of the kind of the rundown of the main characters here, we got, of course, obviously, Magneto. So if you want to just kind of give us a quick rundown of Magneto himself and where he's at in the story here.
I think it's important to note that Magneto Testament is first and foremost, it's a story about the Holocaust. But then again, it's also about a young boy who could only grow up to be Magneto. It really sets the stage as to why Magneto basically turns out to be who he is. There's a lot of things that are going on in his life. Obviously, under the rise of Hitler from 1935, 1945, between that era, there was a lot going on in Nazi Germany, and we know the way the Jews were treated. I mean, over 6 million killed. I mean, and what I appreciate about this is that historically, all of their research and facts are on par.
Yes.
The research, it took them 3 years to put this together just to make sure everything was consistent with history. So this background we're getting of Magneto is not only consistent with who he is, but also from a world history point of view.
And this, a lot of time, a lot of people don't know the framework that of the details of this was laid by Chris Claremont, John Byrne, all the way back, in X-Men. So this kind of just fleshes out this 10-year span of Magneto's career, his life, and before he even went on to become Magneto, his powers, little teases of his powers manifesting himself, but his name is not Eric Leshner, as we'll get into in the spoiler portion of this. We'll reveal when that happens, but we find Magneto as a young Max Eisenhart, is his real name at this. And in the cast of characters, we follow Max and his family with his dad, he calls Papa, his mom. He has a sister, which we reveal for the first time, Ruthie. Funny enough, his uncle was named Eric.
Right.
So I think that's a little tie-in to why he chose that name later in life. Pretty powerful character. And as well as teacher was helping him early on in the story, and then comes full circle later. Fritz Kalb.
Right.
And then, of course, Magda, who's the... no spoiler here for anybody who knows the X-Men Magneto lore. She's the future mother of Pietro and Wanda.
That's
Maximoff.
right.
So,
yes.
So certainly, and then there's soldiers, obviously, all around. So Nazis are very prevalent in the story. Not to, mince words here. So yeah, it's a very much a Jewish, struggle, for survival. It's a survival story.
Yeah.
And this whole story is crafted by the great team of Greg Pak and Carmine Di Giudimencio. And Greg Pak is award-winning Korean-American comic book writer and filmmaker. Currently, he's writing Batman, Superman, and Action Comics for DC. Definitely creates a very, very somber story. It's a struggle. Powerful story by Greg here. And just the art, definitely, and it's reflected in that. Carmine does a great job. He's actually an Italian comic artist. I think he's doing more movie stuff, believe storyboards and stuff now. He drew an issue of Conan the Barbarian, I think, before this as well, which was with for Marvel Italia, which was written by Chuck Dixon. So I'm not as familiar with Carmine's work as this was the first work I've ever seen from him. But they craft a great story, powerful stories, a lot of powerful images and stuff too. And when we come back, we're about to go to our first station break. We will go into the OMG moments. We'll give you a spoiler warning before we actually, details of the story. So we wanted to kind of set the table for you guys and let you know what the story is about. Before we do, unfortunately, we got to pay the bills. And but before that, we're going to have our first regular segment here, which is going to be Colt giving us a first dose of Riddle Me This.
All right. Last time we introduced Riddle Me This, and essentially, for those of you who are just tuning in, we give you 3 hints of a character or a place or something within the comic universe, and we see if you can figure out who or what we are talking about. So, for today's Riddle Me This, here we go. Hint number 1. This character was first introduced in The Incredible Hulk in October of 1974. Secondly, he was created by Roy Thomas and Len Wein. And third, he has been a member of the X-Men, Alpha Flight, and the Avengers.
Oh, who could this be?
Who could this be?
Riddle me this, and we will find out after the break.
You are listening to The Best Station, the best music for the best audience. Find us at our home, www.thebeststation.net.
The Wayne Foundation's annual charity ball will be taking place March 29th at the Gotham City Towers. Ball director Eldon P. Schultz asks us all to help fight the war against street orphan pickpockets and give them a safe haven from a life of crime. Sister Magdalene Kyle will be on hand to accept the Dr. Thomas Wayne Peace Award given by the GCPD's finest for her charitable work. For more information, please go to waynefoundation.com for an invite and specific info. Hurry now, because tickets are limited. And we are back on Comicasters issue 4. In Colt, we have the Riddle Me This reveal.
Yes, so we gave you a couple hints here. We said the character was first introduced in The Incredible Hulk in 1974. He was created by Roy Thomas and Len Wein. And he's been a member of X-Men, Alpha Flight, and the Avengers. This is none other than James Logan Howlett, otherwise and better known as Wolverine.
Wolverine, who Hugh Jackman set to star in the possible Wolverine 3, or what might be called Old Man Logan.
Yes.
Which hopefully will be rated R. We're looking forward to that with the success of Deadpool.
Yeah.
Especially since our last show, Deadpool may have opened up some doors for rated R movies again in the comics world.
Yeah.
And hopefully Wolverine slicing and dicing some people. That might be good to see finally in the final Wolverine film with Hugh Jackman. So
yeah, it would make up for the other ones.
yes, terrible movies, unfortunately. And
Yes.
yes, Wolverine is the Riddle Me This, Colt. Thank you very much for that. So welcome you all back. And we're kind of just going to give you a rundown before we actually... we're going to give you a rundown. Basically, this is the spoiler alert for all of you. So if you haven't read Magneto Testament 1 through 5 or the collected trade here, we're going to basically run down the story. And then we're going to give some of our OMG moments, emotional impact and such from the story. And we'll kind of discuss what it meant to us. So if you haven't read it, this might be a time to pause it, come back, or skip a little bit ahead so you can kind of enjoy it spoiler free. But if you're curious about it and you want to know about, hey, I still want to read this after you guys tell me what it's about, we're going to spoil it for you. So just a warning now. So just to get into this, Magneto was born, as we said, Max Eisenhardt sometime in the late 1920s to a middle class German Jewish family. In this story, Max's father, Jacob Eisenhardt, was a decorated World War I veteran and surviving discrimination and hardship during the Nazi rise to power, the passing of the Nuremberg laws in 1935, and Kristallnacht. Max and his family fled to Poland, where they were captured during the German invasion of Poland and sent to the Warsaw Ghetto. Max and his family escaped the ghetto only to be betrayed and captured again. It gets pretty powerful here at this point. His mother, father, and sister were executed and buried in a mass grave, but Max survived, and it says possibly due to the manifestation, hard to say, of his mutant powers. I think it's pretty safe to say, Colt, that his powers saved his life.
I think so.
Unfortunately, could not save his family.
Yeah.
And but he does escape the mass grave, He was ultimately captured again and sent to Auschwitz, where he eventually became a Sonderkommando. And while at Auschwitz, Eisenhardt reunited with the Romani girl named Magda, who we actually all know who she is the mother of, as we stated earlier, with whom he had fallen in love with when he was younger. And ultimately, he escapes a prison camp during October 7th, 1944 revolt. So that's where the story ends. Obviously, after we discuss our parts of the story, we'll give you a little rundown of what, if for those of you say, hey, when does he become Magneto, the villain of the X-Men? We'll get to that. That's not in the story, obviously. So basically, the story is a survival story.
It is.
And how did this resonate with you? Emotionally, you came away from the story feeling what? What did you take from this, Colt?
I think you mentioned it earlier. It's a very somber read.
Yeah.
I think anytime we read about the Holocaust, it's not like it's with smiles and happy faces. Pretty dark things were going on at that time throughout the world,
yes,
and especially in Nazi Germany. So if you're already at a down place in your life, this is not the comic for you.
Yeah, it's pretty safe to say. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't come out feeling, wow, that was a really good read, and I'm encouraged, and society's really good, and man, nobody's depraved. In fact, it's the exact opposite.
I don't even think this would be safe to say. If you're a fan of like human suffering stories, maybe this would be right up your alley. I don't really know too many people who are, but
right.
It's not a superhero story. I mean, there's very little manifestations, or I could say easy for me to say now, of Max's power, so to speak. I want to call him Eric there.
Right.
So Magneto's powers is not, something Magneto. So his powers, you see very little teases of it. There are some scenes, and we'll discuss them here shortly. But this is just a story of a young boy trying to survive, and he meets the love of his life. And near the end, he was reunited with her again, and he's sacrificing everything he has. He's bribing guards with gold teeth he gets from the corpses of his fellow, Jewish Germans and stuff. So I mean, this is a pretty sad story. It's going to tug at you.
Pulls on the heartstrings.
Yeah, it's definitely going to tug and pull on those heartstrings, and there's the hope at the end, but there's still a feeling of wow, he's escaping with his life, but there's what cost,
Right.
And
no, absolutely.
It certainly drags you through the ringer. Especially, I think for me, the firing squad scene where his family is gunned down, but it looks pretty clear that the bullets do not hit Max, which is, I think, by design from his powers, mutant powers. That resonated with me. That was like, wow, this is he falls into the grave with all these other corpses laying there, including his families, and and it's pretty somber stuff. I mean. It's nice when he does meet back up, kind of the love story that's in there with Magda, and you see there's hope at the end, obviously, but a lot of stuff, some stuff left unresolved. I mean, I don't think we get a clear, he stays to fight with his uncle Eric, who, we had stated he probably takes on his name in honor of him, but we don't really see the end of what happens to his uncle Eric.
We don't.
Unfortunately, that's, unresolved in this particular story, but... there's some parts at the beginning where his powers at the school, he's kind of an outcast because he's Jewish. The German boys beat on him because he wins the overall contest, the gold medal, as they say, from the classes. And his teacher, Fritz Kalb, was, kind of his hero, and Fritz was sticking up for him, but Fritz pays the price as well.
Yes.
As he, I believe, loses his job. But he comes full circle, and Fritz actually is there at Auschwitz at the end.
Yes.
Fritz, unfortunately, ultimately meets his demise as well. So everyone he loves basically either disappears from his life or is killed, except for Magda, who he knows as a child. He's trying to impress her in school, and then he comes back and he sees that she's still alive in this Romani camp.
That's right.
And it's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, that gives you a little hope and stuff, and most of the stuff, a lot of death.
Lots of death.
And a lot of suffering, as there would be. This is, as you said, as well as historically accurate as they could be with the sources to make this. This is no laughing matter. This is what it is. It's suffering, and it's real life to the ones who suffered through this. And Magneto suffered for sure during this time.
Yeah. No, there's a scene there where essentially, I mean, he's depressed and he's wanting to end it, and he says, my name is Max Eisenhardt. To whoever finds this, I'm sorry because I'm dead, and now it's up to you. Tell everyone who will listen. Tell everyone who won't. But please, don't let this happen ever again.
Yeah.
And this is just coming from a young child,
Yeah.
right? Who says, I can't handle the torture. I can't handle the food rations. I think at one point in there they said the Jews were down to 100 calories per day that they were feeding them. And the other people had 800 to 1,000 calories a day. Just really dark, dark stuff for the Jewish community at that time.
Yeah, and this will give. I mean, if you're just reading this and you're not really familiar, like who doesn't know of this historical event, in Auschwitz and World War I and Nazi Germany and everything, but to basically World War II, excuse me, but to actually look at a lot of this stuff as it's happening and actually get some, hey, in a comic book, we're all reading comics to escape. When you read a comic book, hey, there's action, or there might be some comedy and stuff.
Right.
This is a different read for somebody like me, who traditionally reads other material. It's powerful stuff. It's going to touch at you. It's going to tug at you. It's going to be a different read for anybody who's wondering, hey, is this a downer? Well, it's going to be. It's a movie. It's a trade comic miniseries by design to show you what Magneto went through.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people be asking, like, as this character ages or doesn't, depending, how can Magneto look like he does in the comics? But he was, we're looking at, him all the way born in 1920. So, like, Magneto would have to be like almost 100 years old. We're approaching. So, is his mutant powers keeping him younger? At what point in time will this story have to be altered? And that's the thing, like, or Magneto would have to be proven as immortal. So, I mean, this is kind of, this dates Magneto. So, this has been attached to this character for so long now.
Right.
What is going to happen as time progresses? I mean, this might be the last, time you read something specific to Magneto, or they're going to have to say something, because I really don't know how you kind of explain that character is going to be 100 years old.
Yeah.
Unless he goes through a time warp or something.
Yeah, so you'd have to give him a birthday at 1925, 1927, something like that.
Yeah, to go through this is this is what's just terrible, that to think, okay, well, these type of stories in history, the character's going to be lost, or you're going to have to explain it somehow. So
exactly,
that's questions that people ask. But I mean, for now, this is the history of Magneto. I think it still looks pretty good for whatever being a character who has to at this point be some 80-some years old, or 85, 90 years old. Maybe we can attribute it to his mutant power. It's keeping him young, or maybe that's going to have to be explained at some point, that he gets some sort of healing factor or anti-aging factor. But as of now, this is the history of Magneto, and you can't deny what he's gone through as a character.
Yeah,
this is suffering that he has. So I mean, just to look into the story, I mean, I think when you take away from the story, to just kind of give a little final wrap up to the readers, like what kind of, at the end of the day, what were the most probably emotionally standout scenes? What's the OMG moments for you, I think, that from the story?
Yeah, OMG moments. Little Max is there, and he's in the concentration camp, and he opens this door, and there are hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of seeing glasses just piled up in this room of people whose lives have been taken. And he just sits there and he stands in awe, knowing that those belong to everybody who's no longer here. And secondly, I think in the artwork, the way they drew his eyes in the writing, you could just see the sadness in the eyes. And terrific artwork there, because you can just see the pain. And I would say those two things really stood out to me. Yeah,
and in normal, as we said, in normal comics, like the sensational comics nowadays, and even going back, 10, 20, comics have become such a sexy marketplace for beautiful women, juiced up, hulked up guys. And this is not about that. You're not going to find that in the story. Like you said, I think captures best. I wasn't a huge fan of the art here, but you cannot deny the emotion, I should say, in the panels. There's a lot of panels on each page, and it's really it's not colorful. It's bleak colors. It's taking you back to, like I said, World War II time, and it's a lot of sadness in the stories. And to me, the firing squad scene probably ranks up there. The hope in saving Magda near the end is pretty powerful stuff. Knowing who she becomes, as we said, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver's mother.
Yeah.
He risks everything to save her.
He does, right.
And in that sense, I think, it pays off because of that. We are then blessed, so to speak, with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in the Marvel Universe. So, just to kind of give a little follow-up before we give our ratings and stuff for the story, what happens basically is, to do a little follow-up, following the war, Max and Magda moved to the Ukrainian city of Vinnytsia, and Max adopted the name Magnus, as a lot of times we heard Eric Magnus. Magna and Magnus had a daughter named Anya and lived uneventfully until an angry mob, spurred on by a first manifestation of Magnus's powers, burned down their home with Anya still inside. So the suffering doesn't end, unfortunately, for this duo here. Very sad. So Magnus was enraged at the mob for preventing him from rescuing Anya, and his powers were unleashed. So that was the ultimate catalyst. And in the early part of the story, we failed to mention there was a javelin throw.
Javelin contest.
Yeah, javelin contest in school. This was in the first, I think, issue or I believe issue or two. And Magneto's powers, he won a contest, a javelin throwing contest. The German, officials, there was a German, I think, principal or whatever, did not like him, nor did his fellow classmates. They said his contest was rigged. It was a lighter javelin. They give him a heavier javelin, and I think he throws even further. So I think along with that and the bullets that didn't kill him, and that in the same ones that riddled his family and under the firing squad, I believe those were the main two things where he manifested his powers. Obviously, in the movie, he's I think that was shown in First Class, which I think it was Kevin Bacon's character, he was playing Shaw. Shaw was his tormentor there until he manifested his powers. But in this, basically, it took his first daughter's life being taken in this fire by this mob that really unleashed his power. And he destroyed part of the city after this, killing the mob and destroying part of the city. Magda, unfortunately, this was the breaking point. She was terrified at his power and left him, still known as Magnus. And she actually later gave birth to mutant twins, Pietro and Wanda. So
that's right.
Before she died, wanted by the authorities for death and destruction. And while searching for Magda, Magnus paid a Romanian forger, George Odekirk, to create the cover identity of Eric Lenscher, and that's where he relocated to Israel and where he ultimately befriended Charles Xavier and met him for the first time. So the story after that, I think we kind of know where that goes, but the suffering doesn't end for this duo. Unfortunately, no happy ending for Max and Magda, unfortunately, but as I said, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are later born from them. But this dark times that led to, I think we can understand why Magneto is so enraged at the people who are mad at him and mutant kind that following this. So just to kind of wrap this up, before we go to our final station break, we're going to come back. And when we come back, we'll give our reread value. We'll go to our final station break now. When we come back, we'll give our reread value, our final rating. And then basically at that point in time, we'll go to our very first Comic Clash of the week as well. So,
yes, that's right.
We want you all to stay tuned right now. So we're going to head and pay the bills. And after this, we'll be right back with Comicasters Issue 4.
You are listening to thebeststation.net. Home of the best station, the best music for the best audience. Now featuring the best podcasts for the best audience.
Baked Cheeto snacks, dangerously cheesy.
And we are back on Comicasters Issue 4. And we're going to give our reread value here now, Colt. So, Colt, why don't you inform our first-time listeners what type of scale you... we're not doing a scale yet, I'm sorry. Just kind of yes or no reread value for you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's absolutely a reread for me. I wouldn't say as often as some of my other trades, just because it is a somber story and it is dark. But at the
point
same
to bring up as well, right?
I did, yeah. I thought it was interesting from a psychological perspective, I guess we could say, that Magneto, being raised in the concentration camps as a Jewish boy, despised Hitler, despised the Nazi regime, which makes sense. He lost his family, he lost a lot of friends, his teacher, right, that we talked about. But at the same time, the irony in this story is that Magneto goes on to almost become to the Brotherhood what Hitler was to Germany. I mean, when we look at Magneto's death toll, it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
He's killed some pretty prominent names. He kills Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
How many times has Charles Xavier died?
Well, sure. It's still powerful to think.
Yeah.
His best friend, right?
Yeah, I mean, in any form, movie or otherwise, he's caused a lot of pain to Charles.
Right.
That's without
so,
question.
I mean, all of this pain he hated as a child, he goes on and really, I mean, exemplifies that in his own life. Which is really, because you have to think there's a point where he says, I hate what happened in Nazi Germany. But he goes on and almost does worse than what happened in Nazi Germany.
One of my favorite lines in the X-Men Days of Future Past was Magneto himself telling how many years have we wasted, Charles, fighting each other. And that's because of their ideals so strong.
Right.
And, fighting, So, it's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Definitely, Colt.
Just
excellent
kind of an
point.
interesting piece there. Just an observation.
Yeah, so reread value would be definite for you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Akin to a movie that might be tough to watch or very sad, I would say no for me, but I do recommend reading it once, obviously. So for me, I probably am not going to reread this again, but I definitely recommend reading it for sure once, especially if I'm not a fan of like super sad stories. But it's a powerful story. I recommend reading it once. The reader value to me is not going to be be the case, but I think if you haven't read this, you should, especially if you love Magneto as a character. This is going to delve into his history and pretty powerful area and stuff.
Right, and I think it's important to recognize I have a bias, as Magneto is one of my all-time favorites.
So, I mean,
I recognize that.
Yeah, and that's, if Magneto is one of your favorite characters, no matter who's listening here, this is a must-read, I'd say, for sure. It's going to give you an insight into the character you've never gotten before. So what do you think? Final rating for you here now, Colt, for this one on your scale of numbers, right?
Yep, I do numbers. Typically, as our listeners know, I'm a 1 to 10. Derek Ross is not here. He's a A through F. I'm going to give it an 8.5 because it is a hard read, just emotionally. I like the content. I really like the art. But at 8.5, because it's not something I look forward to reading, but it does give me such a good background to who this character of Magneto is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a powerful story. Mine's thumbs up, thumbs down. Unfortunately, I can't do the letter grade for Derek. If I did, I probably would do the middle ground. I don't know if I'm allowed to give thumbs in the middle if I had to do a choice. It's really not my cup of tea. I would probably do thumbs down. I like Magneto, but this is not the version of Magneto that I'm comfortable and enjoy. Obviously, it's not an upbeat story by any means. Not being a fan of too somber stuff, it's just not my cup of tea. But again, I don't regret reading it, and I think that's pretty important to say to all the readers and listeners. Obviously, I do recommend reading it for sure once, and it might be yours. But if I had to do, if I can't do thumbs in the middle, I probably got to do thumbs down. Unfortunately,
that's okay.
Just not my favorite Magneto story, probably.
Right? Yeah. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's like we said in the beginning. This is first and foremost a story about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And about a kid who survived.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, in that sense, and it just depends on your tastes, and that just goes to say, like, if your tastes are you want to escape for joy, maybe this isn't the issue for you. But if you really love the characters you read in X-Men, Magneto specifically, and you say, hey, what makes this character tick? Why is he the way he is? Then I would say this is definitely a story you want to read.
Yeah, I mean, it does a great job documenting the tragedies of the Holocaust. It gives statistics. It highlights the landmark events throughout, really, this whole story. So from that perspective, it's quite good.
Yes. So, I mean, for sure, and like anything, you can't just take our word for it. This is something you got to experience this stuff yourself as a reader, and any comic book reader knows, and comic book fan knows. Sometimes you got to take a chance, take a look at, what your stuff is, and try some stuff out. So, I think we both safe to say, hey, definitely try this out. Definitely read this and see what you think, because we want to hear from you guys. Obviously, at Comicasters, Twitter, Instagram, jot us some message at facebook.com/Comicasters and let us know. Let us know. Hey, I read the story. I love it. I read the story. I don't. Or anything for that matter. So we want to hear from you guys. So let us know. And if you want to read it and you do because of our review on the story, we want to hear from you too. Let us know. Hey, hey, thanks guys for reviewing this. It made me want to listen and, made me want to read and hopefully listen to the next review show we have.
Yeah.
So
Good.
We're going to wrap this one up here as that, but we have our final segment of the show, what we call, and we've just named, for all you great fans, Comic Clash of the Week.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about this, kind of spurred on by our last show, actually, to credit Assassin Need X. He gave us a little bit Deadshot versus Deathstroke. We want to credit a great fan there. Kind of gave us a little inspiration. So we gave you 3 choices. And if you follow us on Instagram, obviously you would have seen them. If you follow us on Twitter, you would have seen them. And we kind of did a kind of a dual thing. On Instagram, we gave you the matchups to vote on, which were, just to give you a heads up, we had Raven, the DC character Raven versus Psylocke. We had also had Elektra versus Black Canary. So Elektra, Marvel's character assassin, against Black Canary. And we had Jessica Jones versus
Zatanna.
And that was the 3 choices. So out of those 3 choices, we had 20, we'll go backwards. We had 18 likes for Zatanna versus Jessica Jones in 3rd place. In 2nd place, we had Raven versus Psylocke. So the winner with 20 likes, which next time we have this vote, you guys got to like and make sure you let us know which one. So the winner is Elektra versus Black Canary. So that is the matchup that we're going to be reviewing. And on Comic Clash of the Week, what we do is, when Derek returns with us next time, the 2 or 3 of us will be given a breakdown of this fight, who we think would win. And then you guys actually voted on Twitter. So
yeah, they did actually, and the results on Twitter were actually pretty good.
And we will give those results after we give our kind of feedback on who we think would win this fight. We'll let you know what you guys decided who won this, and that'll, I guess, kind of be the final say, since this show is all about you guys and interactive. So we can't wait to do our next one too, and we'll be, obviously giving a reveal shortly on Twitter and Instagram. So you guys better stay tuned, because we will be giving those matchups shortly, and give us a vote, and we'd love to hear from you guys.
That's right.
So kind of just to get into it, the winner, obviously, as we said, the matchup, the Comic Clash of the Week, is Black Canary versus Elektra.
Yeah.
And with this matchup, Colt, you're looking at similar characters and basically assassins, trained martial artists, and just kind of, in your opinion, as you look up this matchup, who do you got in this one?
Are you asking who I think will win?
Yes. Who would you think would win in this matchup?
Well, I think it might be a close matchup. I would say Black Canary would win. A couple things just to give you all a background, if you're not familiar with Black Canary or Elektra. I mean, Elektra's primary abilities is a strong knowledge of martial arts and weaponry. Right? She's also an Olympic-level athlete. She's strong in gymnastics and swimming, just high levels in athleticism, coordination, balance, and really just endurance. Now, Black Canary, on the other hand, she's really regarded as one of the DC Universe's top martial artists as well. I mean, she's been paired against people like Lady Shiva and held her own.
Yes.
She's got quick reflexes. She can catch or destroy arrows in flight, right? She's an expert motorcyclist.
You got that right.
And she has her scream.
The Canary Cry.
That's
the ultrasonic scream, yes.
So, I think hand-to-hand combat, it would be a close call, but I think the Canary Scream really would do Elektra in at the end of the battle.
They're both in peak physical conditions. Excellent points by you. I think you're looking at both of them, as we both know, are expert in various types of weaponry. And, Elektra, known particularly for her trademark Twin Psi. And, it's stated she has low-level mind control, telepathic communication. From the stories I've read, I don't think that comes into huge play.
No.
Could she control Black Canary's mind? I don't really believe so. I think in later stories, Black Canary is what I would say skilled from being trained with the League of Assassins.
Yeah.
And basically, her martial arts expertise has been raised over the years to really be I think just highly skilled. One of the I think when you look at and we both enjoy the series Young Justice.
Yeah.
She's training the young heroes. She's that good. They're sparring with her, and to look at that from my side, I think you're going to go to probably a standstill fighting. You know, the twin sides might slice up. You know, Black Canary. And we're looking at the Dinah Laurel Lance version of Black Canary, and obviously there's only one version of Elektra we're dealing with here, the main version. So we're the Canary Cry in this version, which is the daughter of the original Black Canary, comes into play, and I think unless she can slice her throat with those twin sides, which is going to be hard to reach her with hers, I think you're looking at the Canary Cry being basically the final say. So what do the fans think, Colt?
So we went to you guys, the fans on Twitter, and the results were consistent with ours. They said Black Canary had a 67% chance. They said 67% of the fans believe Black Canary would win in a fight, and 33% of our fans believe that Elektra would. So
there you have it. So, I mean, we got Black Canary as the victor of our first Comic Clash of the Week. So here's the thing, folks. We're going to give you new 3 choices, Comic Clash of the Week. We're going to put them on Instagram. You guys like it or don't. Like the one you really want to see and really want us to discuss, and on issue 5, we will be coming back with that matchup. So, as we're running short on time, folks, we want to wrap up this Comic Clash. We're going to give you just a little tease. Next show, we'll be reviewing an animated feature, Colt. None other than Batman
Bad Blood.
Bad Blood. And guess who that features prominently? Not just the Batman family, but female character for you Real Talk for Life, and Femizan T4 last show, Batwoman will be prominently featured on this animated feature. We both are excited to review it, and hopefully Derek will be joining us back for that, and it's going to give us a big insight to the Bat family, and it's going to be a great, great animated feature, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. It'll be good to have Derek back on the show with us.
Yes.
Hopefully he gets back. And
yes, we were going to wrap it up here, folks. Issue 4, it's been fun. We're reviewing Magneto Testament for you, and first Comic Clash of the Week. Again, this is good stuff here, Colt, so we can't wait to bring you guys more great stuff, hopefully in the future. Hopefully on location, tease, plug, hint, for our Comic-Con appearances, and we're hoping to get that situated, and we'll let you know in a future show, and hopefully you guys will come find us at the Comic-Con.
That's right.
So wrap this up for Comicasters Issue 4, I'm your co-host, MC Brown.
I'm Colt Hudson.
And this has been the Comicasters